Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. What you're looking at here, most of you know if you've watched my channel before, but for those who haven't, this is a game called Global War 1936 to 1945. And the reason I mention that is because my friends who made it down in Tulsa, Oklahoma are having a playtest weekend this weekend for other games that they're developing. One of them is Global War 1962, and there's some kind of South Pacific game, and there's a Battle of Stalingrad game. I've seen some pictures on Facebook, and it looks like they're hard at work making some games for us to play in the very near future. So I wish them luck. I know they're going to do a good job. If those games are half as good as this one, then I know I'm going to love it for sure, and I know most of you will. So it's Sunday morning, and my favorite time for making videos is on Sunday mornings. I don't know, I just like getting up and the house is nice and quiet. I'm here by myself and I make a pot of coffee, and that's when my brain starts going. And there's this video I've been wanting to make for a long time, a piece that I wanted to add to this game, but I wanted to play the game a number of times first, and against some good players, which I've had the good fortune of doing. And because I wanted to get a feel for the game before I started making some house rules. I did a video the other day with some planes that I wanted to add to the game, and there's another unit that I'd like to add as well. And here, let me just take you over there and show you what I'm talking about. If you've been following my channel for a long time, you know that the very first video that I made, if you've been following from the very beginning, was called Special Forces Unit. And that was these guys here. These were my Special Forces unit for Axis and Allies Global 1940. I really liked them. I thought they worked out great. But in this game, the dynamics of the game are different, and so I couldn't just take the same rules and just throw it into this game. It just wasn't going to work that way. But I think that this has turned out way better. Or it will anyway. Like, I'm going to need to play test it and everything, but I like to show you what I have and see what you think, especially some of you that have played the game for a few years maybe, and maybe want to comment and make suggestions, because these rules aren't written in stone or anything. I haven't laminated anything yet. I just want to see what you think, but this is what I'd like to do. First of all, let's just take a look at what kind of infantry we already have in the game. So let me just sit down here. One of the reasons that I couldn't just throw it in the game as it was before was because there's already a number of different infantry in the game. In Axis and Allies, you just have your regular infantry. But in this game, you also have militia, you have airborne infantry, you have mountain infantry, you have Marines, and in the case of the Americans and the Japanese, you also have elite Marines. And some of the others have different kinds of units as well. There's colonial infantry for the French and the British. There's a couple of different kinds of militia for the Italians and Germans. They have Volkssturm, the Italians have Blackshirts. Like, there's just a lot of different kinds of infantry in this game. And so my idea for a Special Forces unit in this game is to combine the best qualities of these and add some numbers, but also go to the past in what I was doing. The main feature of my Special Forces unit for Axis and Allies in the past was to, here, let me just tilt that up a little bit, was to limit the number of units in the game. And that's what you see there. That's all there is. There's only 5 for each nation. You can see there's only one French one there. I'm going to have to rectify that. In Axis and Allies, the French are out right away. So, you know, if they couldn't buy anything, then they certainly couldn't buy one of these units, right? But in this game, they're going to have money for most of the game, so if not all of it. So I'm going to have to make a couple more French and take a few Anzac off. Like in the game, you'll be able to, each nation will be able to purchase 5 of them and place it on their capital. I think that the British should be able to put at least 2 on India. They don't have to put 2 there, but they could put up to 2 there. And then between Anzac and France, have 5. Not 5 for Anzac and 5 for France. but like a combination of 5 between them, just so they're not getting a lot more than the Axis, right? But also, like if Anzac couldn't have any, because that's not technically their home country, right? Their home country is London, up in Great Britain there. But they will be able to put these on Sydney, down in Australia there. But a combination of 5. So I'll paint up a few more bases for French guys, so that you could have, say, 3 French and 2 Anzac, or 3 Anzac, 2 French, or whatever you want, right? And the reason you limit them is because it's going to be a pretty powerful unit. And so if you were unlimited in what you could do, like if you just limited them, say you can only buy 1 per turn, well, I mean, they're still going to buy, I think there's 18 turns in this game. You know, you're still going to buy 18 of them, right? And that's just too many of them. And so if you're doing that, then why bother even having all of these other types of infantry down here, right? I don't want to do that. I like the fact that there's all these different kinds of infantry in the game, and I don't want to get rid of them. And so the fact that you only have 5, that you know, once they're dead, once one of them dies, then you've only got 4 left, or up to 4, because you might not have put all 5 of them in the game yet, right? So yeah, like you're gonna have to be careful. You don't want to lose them either, right? But as I go through the numbers, you'll see that you're going to have to expose them, though, because they're not going to do you any good on defense. That's one of the other differences between this and my other special forces unit. But let's just get away from that right now. I'm not calling these guys for this game the special forces unit. What I'm going to call them is Global War Heroes. And the reason for that, here, let me just set that here for now. The reason for that is that what these units represent, they're a smaller unit than a regular infantry unit. They're very, very well trained and specialized, and not everybody could be in a unit like this, right? Like, you have elite Marines, and they're just very good Marines, right? You know, there's something special about them, but they're not like these guys. These guys can do anything. These guys were trained to do anything. They were picked from the Army and the Navy and the Air Force of each of the nations. You know, like, they were the best of the best. The one guy might have been the best mountain climber they had. Okay, let's throw him out of a plane, see how he does. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are the absolute best. And so they have to be limited, because not everybody could develop the skills that they develop, right? Not everybody could have the same mentality to succeed that they do. You know, like the reason the SS were so feared for the Germans was because they had this belief in themselves that they were better than everybody else, not just as soldiers, but as human beings. You know, and to them it was like a religion, right? And so they were fearless on the battlefield. They just up and just charged you, right? They didn't care what kind of hail of bullets they were running into. And so they were very successful because they were very aggressive. And that's the same with these guys. These guys are very aggressive as well. They're very fit, and they're very well trained, and they're very well equipped as well. Like, for instance, all the infantry only go with 1 space, except for, you'll see there's Panzer Grenadiers for the Germans, right? Well, these guys are like Panzer Grenadiers when they're traveling along the ground as well. Like, they will have their own mechanized infantry units. You don't see that, but you just, well, while they're moving along the ground, they can move 2 spaces. Also, they fight a little differently than other people. Like, for instance, if you were invading an island, right? Like, let's say that you were invading Madagascar here, and you were coming in with Marines and with infantry and artillery and stuff, and it was heavily fortified, this island. Well, those guys would be coming in like 6 hours earlier, in the middle of the night, right? And they'd be setting explosions under bridges and communication towers and things like that. They would be enhancing the ability of the rest of your forces to fight. Like, they would sneak in under the cover of night, right, on inflatable rafts and stuff like that. Like, they wouldn't be charging the beach like everybody else does. They would be there before it happened. They're clandestine operations specialists is what they are, right? very highly trained. So I think I've kind of given you a sense of what they are and what they do. So let's just talk about what they're going to do. As far as numbers goes, like let's just take a look at the regular infantry for numbers. And those numbers are pretty standard for all of, or they are standard for all of the countries. So a regular infantry attacks at 2 and defends at 4. And that's pretty good, especially for defense. Offense not so good, but defense awesome. The airborne unit, the regular airborne units are, they only attack at 2 and defend at 2. So they attack the same, but they defend not very well. They defend like a militia defends at 2. He attacks at 1 and defends at 2. Or actually, those are only militias that move. This militia here, the American one, doesn't move. So he would only defend at 2. So, but a mountain infantry, he would attack at 2 and defend at 4, just like a regular infantry. But you add +1 to his defense if he's defending a mountain territory. And when you're attacking into a mountain territory, then he doesn't suffer a penalty of -1 like all the other infantry would if they were attacking into mountain territory. The mountain infantry does not suffer that -1 penalty. Now the Marines, they are the most important infantry units in this game, in this Global War 1936 game, because of the penalty that the attacker suffers by invading over water and onto land. If you're just attacking a land with naval transports and you take a casualty just with regular infantry, you lose 2 infantry. Unless you have a Marine, you could lose 1 Marine or 2 infantry, right? So 2 infantry costs 6 IPP, 1 Marine costs 4 IPP. So obviously it would be better off losing 1 Marine, right? So that's why Marines are so important in this game. Like you wouldn't want to attack land without Marines, or at least land that was defended. It'd be one thing to go into land that had nothing on it. You just go and drop something off there, and that's fine, right? And also when you're going to attack amphibiously, only the infantry get off the boats. The tanks, the mechanized infantry, the artillery, all that stuff stays on the boat until the second round of combat. And in that first round, you have to be successful in that. You have to still have some infantry left in order for those other units to get off the boat for the second round. Like you could have an overwhelming force still on the boat out here, but if you don't have 1 infantry left when the first round ends, then that amphibious assault is over, and those units stay on the boat until the next round, or sorry, until the next turn. Like they don't move, they just stay there, right? And so that's what makes Marines so important in this game. And elite Marines, the same. They're the same as Marines. It's just they attack at 3 and defend at 5, whereas these guys attack at 2 and defend at 4. So how does one of these guys differ? Like here's your British Commando sculpt, but all the bases for these are painted red. That's what tells me that these are one of your Global War heroes. So they're going to attack at 4. Now that's you're not going to find that in any other infantry. So they're attacking at 4. They're defending at 2. So they're defending terribly. Like they're defending like a militia or an airborne unit. These things are not good. Like you would not buy 5 of them and put them in London. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to do you any good. These things are for you to go out and take territory, for you to go out and kick some ass. That's what these guys are for. And the reason that it's only a 2, even though they're such great fighters, is because they're only a smaller unit, a much smaller unit. So they will. That's the reason why they will defend at much less. Like when they're attacking, they've got a plan. You know what I mean? They're going in and they're sneaking in and they're going to hit the other guy where it hurts. When they're defending, they're basically waiting for somebody to come in. They don't know what the other guys are going to do. They're the ones assaulting, so it's their plan that they have to react to. And no doubt they would probably act pretty well to it, but the fact that they're such a small unit is why they only defend at 2. So they're going to attack at 4, defend at 2. They're going to move 2 on the land, and there's other ways that they're going to move, and we'll talk about that. But on the land, they'll move 2 spaces, and they're going to cost 5 IPP. And you're thinking, well, geez, they should cost more than that. But just remember, you only get 5 of these per game. So yes, the cost is low on them, but you know, like I wouldn't recommend buying all 5 of them as fast as you can, because then you're not going to have any for late in the game. Like if I see them out there, then I'm going to go after them. You know what I mean? If you have them, then I'm going to find a way to go after them just to get them out of the game so that they don't hurt me. Like obviously they can hurt you what they're attacking it for. But there's more advantages to the way they attack, and we'll get to that. So the cost again 5, and yeah, that's it, I guess. So how do they work? Okay, let's start off like an airborne infantry. So the airborne infantry, let's move these over here. Now the airborne infantry, the way they work is, yeah, you can fly one of them on a transport plane into combat, or you could do it on non-combat. You can fly any type of infantry unit on non-combat, but only airborne units you can fly on a combat movement. Now you can either use a transport plane, or you can use your strategic bomber to do that. But if you used your strategic bomber, then you couldn't use him on a strategic bombing run that turn, right? He would be just solely a transport for that turn. And I found that this does not work very well. Like the only way that this works very well is if you're flying over and taking over a territory that has nothing in it. Because like even if all you were attacking was a militia, then you've got 1 at 2 on attack versus 1 at 2 on defense. Like, and you're both rolling. First guy that gets 2 wins, basically. Like that's not a very good attack, right? So basically the only thing I found these things useful for was attacking a territory that had nothing in it. You know, like you got to make sure that you leave something in Berlin, just so somebody doesn't fly an airborne unit in there and for all intents and purposes win the game right there by taking Berlin out and removing all the German pieces off the board. So, you know, other than that these things, they're really quite pathetic. Like in all the games I've played, and it's not that many, but in all the games I've played, I haven't seen anybody buy a transport plane just for that reason. The game starts with 2 transport planes already on the board. The Germans have 1 and the Russians have 1. And I don't think I've seen anybody else build one, because it's such a, you know, like it doesn't add much to your offense. The other way, of course, you use them is that you have a bunch of units going in on an attack, and this guy comes from a distance and gets dropped into that attack. And you know, like you can use him at that point, but still he's only attacking it 2. Like he doesn't add a whole lot to the attack. And then once he's there, he's only going to defend it 2 afterwards for any potential counterattack that comes, right? So the airborne infantry are just not very effective in this game. Now, how I plan to rectify that is because these things are a smaller unit. Now, remember transport planes, like this isn't one plane. This isn't one plane. This represents a group of planes, like a number of them, a squadron, right? And this isn't just one airborne infantry guy. This is a bunch of them, right? But this is a full-size airborne regiment, whereas this is a much smaller unit, right? So they're just going to throw in a couple more planes into the attack, and this guy's going to go with them. So one plane is going to take both of these guys. That's how we're going to make airborne assault an actual thing in this game, okay? So here, let's just show you how that works. Let's move this up here. So these guys, now this transport plane can go 3 spaces, right? So we're gonna go 1, 2, let's attack this guy here. So we will bring in the airborne and the global war hero here, and they're both gonna attack this cavalry, and the cavalry only defends at 2, right? So we got an attack at 2, and an attack at 4. The plane has nothing to do with it. There's no anti-aircraft in the area. So now all of a sudden, this is worth going for. Like I probably wouldn't have just gone with just the airborne unit against the cavalry unit. You know, like it's just, I don't know, it just isn't a very good attack, right? But now it is. Unless, of course, what you're doing is exposing this guy and he's just going to get jumped, you know, in a counterattack. Like if there was a bunch of Italians here or a bunch here. Forget about what's on the board right now. I'm just showing you how it's being used, okay? So, but you see what I mean though, right? you would only want to take him in if it was worth it. You know what I mean? Whether it's worth losing just to be able to take this territory for some reason, or to be able to take the unit that's in there, or whatever. But regardless, an attack using an airborne unit is an actual attack now when you've got somebody at 4 and somebody at 2. So this guy would be your cannon fodder. If the cavalry hit and you hit, the cavalry would be gone, and that guy would be gone, and this guy would be left. You know, like obviously you'd want to lose the airborne unit instead of this guy, because this guy's much more powerful, right? So anyway, that's how it works. But you can't go 2 guys on a plane. You know what I mean? This is the only combination you can use. You can't use 2 airborne. You can't use 2 of these. It's just 1 of each on a transport plane or on a strategic bomber being used as a transport plane. So that's how the hero moves in the air. So let's move on to, what else do we got here? Mountain. Okay, so attacking and defending in mountains, it's just basically, it's exactly the same thing. Like this is a mountain territory here. So this guy, again, he will be +1 in a mountain because he's highly trained in mountains. This guy knows how to climb just like this guy, right? They've been trained in all types of terrain. So he's going to defend better in a mountain. He gets the +1, and he does not lose -1 when he's attacking into a mountain. And for that matter, might as well just say it now, he does not worry about any modifiers. Attacking into a city does not make him a minus. Attacking across a river here does not make him a minus. He is like these guys. They can get across the rivers no problem. Not like your regular infantry. Like these guys, like I said, these guys fight differently. They don't just go in with the regular assault. These guys swam across the river and they popped up and shot everybody. You know what I mean? Like they don't assault people like a regular unit does. They're a smaller unit and they're sneaky little bastards, and that's that's why I'm calling them heroes. They're not like your regular units, right? Okay, so that's how he works like a mountain infantry. Pretty standard, okay? Now, there is another thing here when we're talking about ground assault here, and that is blitzing. Blitzing in global war is not like blitzing in Axis and Allies. In Axis and Allies, this territory would have to be empty and German, in this case, in order for these guys to go through here and attack these guys. And you could go a tank, or a tank paired with a mechanized infantry, and you could have blitzed through here if this territory was empty. In global war, it's different. You can go in here with all of your units. See what you're really looking at. You want to get this King Tiger out of here, right? And there's a couple guys back here, but that's what you really want out of here. And you've got lots of units over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring all of your units up into here, and you're going to assault this guy first. So you've got your 2 infantry, you've got 2 artillery, so the infantry is going to be upscaled with the 2 infantry. Let's just move these guys up here to make some space, even though they're standing in the desert there. And we've got the mechanized infantry and we've got the tanks. So if you can take out these Germans in the first 2 rounds of combat, then you have the option of going on to the next space. But you have to take them out in the first 2 rounds. If there's even like this tank left, and you take them out on the 3rd round, then you can't blitz. But let's say you do. You take them out in the first, on the 2nd round, let's say, and you lose this, and let's say these guys are gone too, and let's lose a mechanized infantry here as well. Okay, so all you have left is 3 tanks and 3 mechanized infantry. You've taken this territory, and you've got your 2 planes. Now these things here, oh, I forgot here. Let's bring this guy in, okay? So this guy was in on that attack. This guy, this hero. The hero was in on the attack as well. Now, normally only your tanks and your mechanized infantry and your tactical bombers and your fighters could blitz, and the mechanized infantry needs to pair 1-to-1 with a tank in order to blitz. Like if you had 4 mechs left and 3 tanks, then only 3 mechs could keep going in here, right? Mechanized infantry. But we've got 3 and 3, so all of these guys are going to be able to go in. Now also, if there's a blitz, and only if there's a blitz with tanks, can you also blitz with this guy? With the planes, let's just finish that off. With the planes, you can blitz as long as you can still fly to a safe place, right? You don't have to blitz with the planes, but because you only went 1 space here, That's 2. You could go 3, 4 and land here. So you're okay to blitz with these planes. Now this guy here, he can't blitz by himself, but he can blitz as long as other people are blitzing. In other words, as long as a tank is blitzing, because this could not blitz by itself, and these guys could not blitz by himself. So as long as a tank is blitzing, your hero can blitz with him. And you don't have to pair him one-to-one. These things are already paired. He doesn't need to be paired. He just needs to be part of a blitz. Okay? So that's how blitzing would work with your hero. Now the big thing is amphibious assaults. Let's just move the camera around here. Now here's your boats that you have here. I left the submarines out because the submarines are not part of this. These are all the different type of boats you have. You got your carriers. This is the big battleships. This one here is an Iowa class. Then you got your regular battleships, your carriers, your light carriers, your destroyers, and your transports. Now, the hero can ride on any one of these boats, any one of them. It does not matter, because it's a small unit, right? It's just a matter of adding them and their equipment onto any one of these ships. It's not a big deal. Not a submarine, just a surface ship, okay? So let's say like the best thing if you were blitzing, and I'll show you why in a minute, put him on the destroyer. Okay, so we're gonna go on an amphibious assault. Let's just take let's take a tank and an artillery, and we need some infantry. Where is he? Let's take this. Ooh, here, let me just grab this. So there we go. These guys are going to go on the transports. A dude and a artillery on one transport, a dude and a tank on another transport. Let's just go up here and let's move this aside here. I'll just put this up here, okay? Let's assault these guys. We wouldn't normally go and assault the Brazilians, but let's say that they're green Germans. Here, we don't need all of that stuff. Let's keep this one out. And we're gonna move these guys in. Okay, so then, if we were assaulting the land as an amphibious assault, and this guy's gonna go to, he's coming in with the destroyer, the hero. Okay, now these guys here are still on the transports, the tank and the artillery for the first round of combat. They don't get off, but the planes do. So let's just throw those on the land. There we go. So that's what your assault's going to look like. Now, if you're going in like this, like they've got 3 units. They got 2 dudes and they've got a militia. The 2 dudes are going to defend at 4. The militia is going to defend at 1. It's also a city territory, so they've got that going for them as well. I mean, this wouldn't normally be a very good attack, right? You're looking at losing your special forces unit under regular circumstances, right? But what this guy is going to do for an amphibious assault is, like I was saying earlier about going after Madagascar there, they don't actually get off the boat when everybody else does. Like, they go in on the rubber rafts earlier and they're getting ready to compromise these guys' ability to fight. And how that manifests itself on the board, like how you would modify that, is that any regular infantry, or say mountain infantry, I suppose it could be airborne units, although you probably wouldn't take an airborne unit in like that. But any one of those things, what he will do is he will turn him into a Marine, you know, for that first round of combat. So these guys would you wouldn't take double casualty on these guys. And that's like one of these guys can pair with 2 infantry to make them into 2 Marines. And so there you go. These guys, they could probably would hit you at least once, maybe twice, hopefully not 3 times. But let's say they hit you twice. Okay, these guys are gone. And then these guys got their casualties as well, right? And then on the second round, then the rest of your stuff moves in right here. And don't forget you have a bombardment as well, right? So hopefully your bombardment went well, and they would have at least lost the militia on the bombardment. But when you do this, you can bring this guy in on a transport if you want with anything, just like a regular dude, right? You can bring him with a dude or a tank or a mech or an artillery or whatever, like 2 units on a naval transport like normal. That's okay. But if you're going to bring him with one of these other units, then you're going to have to forego the bombardment shot for that unit. That's why it's better to put him on the destroyer than it is to put him on the battleship, because the battleship is going to get a better shot at the land than the destroyer is. The destroyer is only going to shoot at 1, right? The battleship, what is it? I can't remember, but let me just take a look there. Battleship 4. So the battleship is going to shoot at 4 at the land, and the destroyer at 1. So obviously put him on the destroyer. So the destroyer is not going to get his landing shot. These guys are. They're going to get their bombardment shots, right? Or I suppose you could put him on the aircraft carrier, for that matter. But these guys are busy offloading these other guys. Like they're not in position to be doing the bombardment. Like you got to pick between one or the other. Put it that way. So they're going to make an amphibious assault possible for these guys. Like I would not put these guys in an amphibious assault if I thought there was a chance that I was going to lose him easily. And you would have been lost easily if these guys were just regular dudes. So your modification using him is going to make these guys single casualties instead of double casualties in that first round. And everything else is the same. He's attacking a city, so he doesn't suffer any losses. He still attacks at 4. And then you just go for the rest of the attack from there. There's lots of other things that are involved in an amphibious assault, but I think that describes what he does anyway. Like like if they had a coastal gun, or if there was boats in here or whatever. If you want to know how amphibious assault works, then go to my amphibious assault video for Global War. That'll teach you how the whole thing works. But this is how this guy is inserted into an amphibious assault, by making infantry into Marines for that first round of combat. It doesn't make them attack any better. Like they're still only going to attack at 2, just like a regular Marine would. But it just makes that casualties better, right? Single casualties instead of double. So that is that, and I think that's about it. Just looking around, yeah, that's about it. And so I don't think there's anything more to tell you about these. I told you already that they'd come on the nation's capital. If it's the French. Oh, I know, yeah. If it's the French, then they would come in wherever France moved their capital to, right? Like in this game here that's being played, the French capital is here, not in Paris anymore, because Paris has fallen. So if you purchase one for the French, then it would have to go here. You do have to put them on a factory location, and it is going to count against your factory production. It's not like a militia where you can throw them on, on any territory and it doesn't count against factory. They do count against your factory production, and they do have to go on a factory. And what is the last thing? There was one more thing I was thinking of. Like I don't think they would have been developing these things in 1936 and training them then. You know what I mean? But I think that when they started putting tanks into the game, or building tanks, everybody, then I think, okay, they kind of got the sense that, okay, we're going to war. So these things cannot be built until July of 1939. They can't be put on the board until then. So in July of 1939, you can put 1 on per turn, up to a maximum of 5, and that's it. Once the 5 are on there, that's it. No more. It doesn't matter how many you have on the board at a time. You could have 3, you could have 5, it doesn't matter. But it's 5 in total. So when you remove one, don't put him back in your regular tray where you put your units. Put him somewhere else. Like this guy goes in for the Russians. Take him and put him away. Like for me, this came out of my General Hand Grenades house rules thing. So I'll put him back in here. You know what I mean? In this tray here, and then I know, okay, that guy's not coming back, because when you're playing a game and there's a whole bunch of guys around and there's all these nations and everything, who's to say that the Russians didn't put 6 of those in the game, right? You're busy doing all kinds of other things. You're not sitting there counting the Russian guys. So make sure that everybody puts theirs away somewhere else and not back into their own peace tray. So that's it. That's my heroes, my global war heroes. I like these better than the ones that I had for Axis and Allies. The ones for Axis and Allies, they couldn't share a territory between them. In this game they can. It doesn't matter. In this game they're much worse on defense, and that's because of all the different types of units that you have in this game. You know, like the infantry units. I want some infantry units to be better than others. I don't want these guys for defense. You know, like these guys are to go out there and kick some ass. They're not to go and get piled up on London or Berlin or Moscow and make a wall of them. They will get slaughtered. They're no better than militia on defense. So these things are to be used to go out and attack people. Aerial assaults be much better. You can use one of these plus your cannon fodder. So you can all of a sudden start buying transport planes in this game, or strategic bombers, because strategic bombers are good in this game. But anyway, can't think of anything else. Nothing else has happened in this game, as you can see. I'm still waiting for Panzer King to come and finish it off. I think that's the only video I'm doing this weekend. I've got other things I got to do. I had to work yesterday. We had to work an extra day this week to make up for Christmas. We're going to do that on 3 Saturdays over the next month, so that we get the week off between Christmas and New Year's and don't lose any pay. So I only have one day to make videos, and this is the only one today. Anyway, go get your heroes. But I will mention this. I did talk to Doug earlier in the week, and they are planning on putting some kind of commando unit in, like an expansion set. And I don't know what it's going to look like. Who knows? If it's good, then I might just take these guys out of the game and just play with their commando set, expansion set. But I don't know. Like, I like this. I like the way that I've done this, and I'm going to try it out, and I think it's going to work out really well. And who knows? Maybe there's room for these guys in commandos. I don't know. But just so you know that they are going to do that. If you're going to put these guys in, you could do what I've done and paint the bases, or you could put them on, like, get some chips. Yeah, there's these guys. This is an Italian chip. This is what I did for my Axis and Allies, right? Here's an Army Rangers chip for the Americans, and you've got your commando chips. Like, you could just buy chips for this as well, right? So it's up to you how you do it if you try it. Anyway, that's me. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.